There's a family out there that looks completely normal. They have dinner together, they go on vacations, they post photos, and from the outside, everything looks fine. But if you sit at that table long enough, you start to notice something. Nobody talks about the real things. Nobody mentions why dad goes quiet when mom brings up money. Nobody asks why the oldest child flinches at raised voices. Nobody says out loud what everyone in that room already knows. And somehow, everyone just keeps eating. If you grew up in a family like that, you already know what I'm about to say. And if you didn't, you might be surprised how many people around you did. There's a story a lot of people carry silently. It starts in childhood, in a house that had rules nobody said out loud. Don't cry at the table. Don't bring up what happened last night. Don't ask why dad hasn't looked at anyone all week. Don't talk about grandma's drinking. Don't tell your friends what really goes on behind this front door. You learned the rules without being taught them. You just knew. Because that's what children in these homes do. They become incredibly good readers of emotional weather. They watch, they sense, they adapt. Psychologists call this the family system. The idea that every family, like every system, has its own rules, its own roles, and its own way of protecting itself from falling apart. But here's the part nobody tells you. Sometimes the thing the family is protecting isn't love. It's the secret. Every silent family has one. It might be addiction. It might be financial shame. It might be a parent's unspoken depression, a past that was never addressed, an affair, a grief that was never mourned. It might just be years of quiet emotional withdrawal, a slow, invisible shutdown that no one ever named. But whatever the secret is, the family organizes itself around it, like planets around a dark star. And here's what's strange about that. Nobody decides this consciously. Nobody sits down and says, okay, we're all going to pretend this isn't happening. It just happens. Naturally. Slowly. The way mold grows in the dark. One day the child learns, without a single word being spoken, that certain questions cause pain, that certain topics make the room go cold, that if you bring up the wrong thing, the atmosphere shifts, and suddenly everyone is angry at you. Or worse, everyone goes quiet, so you stop asking. And slowly, without meaning to, you teach yourself that your observations aren't welcome, that your feelings create problems, that noticing things, really seeing what's happening around you, is dangerous. That lesson follows you for the rest of your life. Stop for a second and think about this. How many times as an adult have you had something real to say and stopped yourself? How many times have you bitten back a feeling because it didn't seem safe? How many times have you smiled at a table, at dinner, at a meeting, at a family gathering, while something in you was screaming? If the answer is more than a few times, I want you to stay with that, because that's not a personality trait. That's not just who you are. That's a learned behavior, a survival skill you developed in a home where honesty carried a cost. In families like these, children don't just grow up, they adapt. And each child adapts differently. Therapists have noticed for decades that children in dysfunctional families tend to fall into predictable roles, not because they choose them, but because someone has to fill them. There's the caretaker, the one who holds the family together, who checks on mom, diffuses dad's moods, makes sure the younger ones are okay. The one who becomes so good at managing everyone else's emotions that they completely lose track of their own. There's the achiever, the one who decides that if they're successful enough, exceptional enough, perfect enough, maybe the chaos at home won't matter. They perform for the outside world while dying a little on the inside. There's the invisible one, the child who quietly disappears, who stops needing things, who shrinks, who figures out that the safest way to survive a turbulent home is to take up as little space as possible, to be easy, to be no trouble. And then there's the scapegoat, the one who carries the family's pain on their back, the one who gets in trouble, acts out, expresses the anger no one else is allowed to feel, who grows up being told they're the problem, when really they were just the only one honest enough to show that something was wrong. Do you recognize yourself in any of those? Because most people do. And the recognition, even years later, can feel like a small earthquake.
Here's the twist that changes everything. The family that never talks doesn't do this because they're bad people. Usually, they do it because they were never taught how. Your parents grew up in a family too. A family that probably had its own silence, its own unspoken rules, its own things that lived in the walls. They learned, just like you did, that certain feelings weren't allowed, that vulnerability was weakness, that love meant staying, not necessarily talking. They passed down what they inherited, and their parents passed down what they inherited. Generation after generation, a family carrying a wound that nobody has ever looked at directly. Because every time someone tried, it hurt too much, and it was easier to just keep eating. This is what psychologists call intergenerational trauma. The idea that unprocessed pain doesn't disappear. It transfers. It moves like a current through time, through households, through the way parents hold their children, through the things that go unsaid at dinner. You didn't cause this, but you're the one who has to decide what happens next. Because here's what breaks the cycle. Not fixing your family, not confronting everyone at Christmas, not forcing conversations that no one is ready to have. It starts much smaller than that. It starts with you.
Deciding to stop pretending that you're fine when you're not. Deciding to see the patterns that shaped you, clearly, without shame. Deciding to grieve what you needed and didn't get. Deciding that the rules of your childhood home do not have to be the rules of your inner life. That is the work, and it's quiet, slow, deeply personal work, but it's the only thing that actually changes anything. There's a scene I want you to imagine. A future dinner table. Maybe yours. Maybe your children's. Maybe just a table of people you've chosen to call your own. And at that table, someone says something real, something honest, something that in your childhood home would have made the air go cold. But at this table, nobody flinches. Someone listens. Someone responds. Someone says, "I didn't know you felt that way." And the conversation continues.
That's what healing looks like. Not a dramatic moment of revelation, not a perfect family. Just a table where real things are allowed to be said. You don't have to fix where you came from. You just have to refuse to rebuild it. If any part of this felt familiar, if something in you quietly said, "That's my family," I want you to know something. The fact that you recognized it means it no longer has the same power over you. You can see it now, and that's where everything changes.